Hi everyone, so this is my long video for round 2 of the Eliteserien. Got some 2-minute videos for all matches in this preview, but just as last week, if you just want the bets, straight away here we are with the 4 that I've got for this round. Lillestrøm minus 1.25 Asian handicap, Strømsgodset Molde over 2.5 goals, Vålerenga to win, and Rosenborg to win. Simple as that. Now last week was disappointing, had 4 picks, 3 lost and just 1 winner. The 1 winner was odd and it was a lucky one. We were very unlucky with Molde Vålerenga, both teams to score, but to be honest I was wide of the mark. I had under 2.5 in the Sandefjord game, which was terrible. I had over 2.5 in the Sarpsborg Viking game, and that only ended 1-0, and that was a bad call as well. So I wasn't really at my sharpest, I've got to be honest. We actually did alright just to get 1 winner out of that 4, but I'm hoping we can bounce back here with 4 good winners. Hopefully, I think I've got some good picks for round 2, and after this I've got video previews, so all 8 matches all in this one video. If you like to watch them separately as well, go to the playlist for round 2 matches in Eliteserien and you can watch them that way. It's all about your personal preferences. Let's hope we have a good round. Good luck to anyone, whatever you're taking this round in Norway, and let's get some winners. Lillestrøm against Jerv, and this is the only Saturday match this weekend in the Eliteserien. It's a 3 PM kickoff time in the UK. So let's have a look at both these teams, and well, there's not much form to go on right now, is there? Jerv won their opening game against Strømsgodset 1-0. Lillestrøm drew against HamKam. Let's start with Jerv, actually, because their win against Godset was very lucky. I mean, if you watch that game, there's no way. They had no right to win that game. They were outplayed through pretty much the whole contest. I think they had like 2 or 3 shots in the whole match, scored with probably the only one they had on target, and their XG was pretty low. I don't know how they didn't concede a goal in the game. Godset were all over them, created several chances. The goalkeeper came up big, bodies were put on the line, there were loads of block shots, but Godset also missed some good opportunities, just poor finishing, and you got to think against a better team they would be punished. And Jerv at home, they had the crowd behind them as well. They were digging in, but I think it was a worrying performance. I think we kind of saw how poor they might be this season. I've not actually had a chance to do team news graphics yet for Eliteserien on these, but team news is pretty good for both sides. Tom Pettersson is doubtful for Lillestrøm. He missed week 1 for Jerv. Imam Mafi is ruled out till June, but they got suspension as well. Leo Fernandez is ruled out due to picking up 2 yellows last week. I just think Lillestrøm for me are by far the better side, and they found themselves 2-0 down against HamKam last week, used their really good bench strength to come back into that game and get a 2-2 draw, and probably should have won the game in the end. I'd like to see them start their new Nigerian striker Akor Adams. Did really well coming off the bench last week, and I wouldn't be surprised to see him in the starting 11. Lillestrøm at home should have way too much for Jerv, and I like backing them on a minus 1.25 handicap at 1.86. 2-0 or 3-0 for me here, and look, just in case it was just a tight 1-0 or by a 1-goal win, then at least we wouldn't lose the full pick, would we? So I think take the home handicap on this particular bet. Lillestrøm should have way too much. If it kind of goes to form until last week, this is going to be a comfortable home success against Jerv. Rosenborg against Odd, a Sunday kickoff time in the Eliteserien at 5 PM in the UK, and let's have a look at both these teams, how they got on in round 1. And Odd beat Tromsø 2-0, and Rosenborg got a very creditable 2-2 draw away against Bodø Glimt. And for those who listen to my Nordic Football Podcast season preview, I've actually predicted Rosenborg for 2nd this season, but mostly because I think over the course of the whole campaign they're going to probably get better and better as it goes on, and other teams might drop points in the summer. I didn't think they would get a draw away against Glimt in round 1, and I certainly didn't think they'd play as well as they did. I thought they put up a good first half performance. Yes, they only had about, I think, 25% of the ball, but they were quite clever how they used the ball. They created chances on the break. Tobias Borkite got a couple of goals on debut. I don't think we can expect that many goals from him this season, but it was good to see from their point of view. And the Rosenborg dug in, and I think there's plenty of fight in the squad this year. They want to prove their doubters wrong. I'm not saying they've silenced their critics, but I think people are looking at them a little bit more favourably now after that result. Different sort of challenge, because Rosenborg are going to have to go from 25% possession to probably about 60% possession, or at the very worst 50-50. So they've got to control the game differently. But I actually like them to beat Odd in this game. Odd did not impress me in week 1. I've actually betted on them to beat Tromsø and won, but it was a lucky win. Tromsø, I don't know how they didn't score in that game really. It was only probably poor finishing and good goalkeeping from Leopold Wallstedt, who kind of saved them and got them the victory, 2-0. But if they play like that here, they're going to lose, in my opinion. Yes, they're going to probably park a few men behind the ball, but fundamentally, I think Rosenborg are going to have enough to get the 3 points, and I'm happy to back them. And just a question of what line you take. 1.72 on the minus 0.5 straight on the nose, or 1.87 on a minus 0.75 handicap. There's not much really difference between the price there, so you might as well just take them straight on the nose to win at 1.72. You can take them on the 1x2 as well here actually, but for me, Rosenborg claim a fairly comfortable 2-0 win. For me, maybe even 3-0, but at worst I think they get the 3 points. They look the better team overall over week 1 to me. Vålerenga against Haugesund, Sunday kickoff time in the Eliteserien, 5 p.m. UK time. Both sides lost last week in the opening round. Vålerenga 1-0 at Molde, and Haugesund a terrible defeat at home 3-1 to Sandefjord. I'm going to start off with Haugesund because I thought that was probably the worst performance of any team in week 1. They were a shambles against Sandefjord. They could have been 4 or 5-0 down at home in the first half alone, and it was shocking. Defending, like, they just were terrible. And I know in the second half they came back into the game. XG stats in the end were actually quite favourable for Haugesund in terms they got, I think, over 2 XG, but Sandefjord just sat back. They could defend on their lead, and I think it was a bit distorted statistically. Haugesund were even worse than you might think, and if they defend like that again here, they're not going to get any points. And think about it, they've lost Benjamin Hansen to Molde. Tore Pedersen is injured and he's doubtful again. Martin Samuelsson is doubtful. It's a thin squad. They've not got that much depth. It's a big concern for Haugesund this season. They look like they might go down. For me, Vålerenga win this game, and they weren't that bad against Molde last week. They deserved to lose, and they probably deserve to lose by more, but they have a knack of hanging in games. Molde are a strong side. Let's give them some credit as well. And Vålerenga, I didn't think they offered as much as they would have wanted. It doesn't help that Aaron Donham is suspended for this game. He looked lively last week, but they hadn't been banking on Aaron Donham all winter anyway, so they kind of should be used to life without him. Vålerenga have got enough quality to score goals here. Kjartansson, Sarawi, they've got enough ability in this side to get at least a goal or two, in my opinion, and I think it's worth taking them just straight on the nose to win at 1.75. I think they're going to cover the handicap as well, because if Haugesund defend like that, again, they're going to be terrible. I suspect they'll try and keep it a bit tight at Haugesund this week, but you can't make that fix in the space of a week. They look terrible. Vålerenga get the win. I'm going to predict 2-0, but it could easily be 3 or even more. But no need to push the boat out. Let's just take them straight on the nose to win at 1.75. It covers that 1-goal win. You never know with Vålerenga. They'll just be probably happy with the 3 points. So just take that pick on its own. But really, I'm not confident that Haugesund are going to do very well in this game. Strømsgodset against Molde here at Marienlyst Stadion this Sunday, 5 p.m. kickoff time in the UK Eliteserien contest. And a lot of you will remember last year's fixture, which ended 6-0 to Strømsgodset. It kind of really dented Molde's title-winning chances. Molde got off to a winning start, 1-0 against Vålerenga last week. Don't even talk to me about that game. I had both teams to score, and I bet on an in-running over it, and I lost on that. I don't know how it ended only 1-0. Like, Molde should have scored about 3 or 4 alone, and it should have probably ended about 4-1 or something. It was it really frustrated me, that game. And Godset themselves, I didn't actually have anything on that game, but Godset will not know how they lost to Jerv. They were clearly the better side, just could not finish their chances. It was a weird 1-0, an undeserved defeat. But at the end of the day, for me, Molde will get the revenge on their 6-0 drubbing last season. And it's interesting, these two sides just met in the Norwegian Cup in midweek semi-final, and Molde beat them 3-0, although that was in Molde. I had a look at that game, and Godset did have chances. It could have easily been in both teams to score, but there's a weird dynamic when these teams play. Molde usually beat Godset, by the way. They've won like 7 of the last 8 head-to-heads. Apart from that 6-0 last year, Godset do not do well in this fixture. But if we look at this, 3-0, 6-0, 3-0, 4-0, 4-0, 4-0, 2-0 there. Both teams don't score very often when they meet, and they should. And I actually think that this will be a BTTS, but I think over is the better way to go in case Mulder just go there and romp them like 3-0, 4-0. Alternatively, if Godset have the sort of same day they had last year, maybe they're the side that can get goals. And they are strong at home at Marienlyst Stadion. They tend to do quite well here. So that's the pick that definitely I'm leaning towards, over 2.5 goals. I'm going to take only 1.67, and I do prefer to tip bets at bigger prices than this, but I think there's no real juice in the 2.75 line at 1.83. And I don't fancy betting on over 3 goals just yet at this stage of the season, because you could end up in a stupid push situation where there's exactly 3. So happy just to take straightforward over 2.5 goals. For me, Mulder win. Could be a little bit of a banana skin, but they should show enough class and get the 3 points, but over 2.5 for me. Kristiansund against Sarpsborg this Sunday at 5 PM kickoff time in the UK. Norwegian Eliteserien, and this is a battle between two sides who, for me, were really disappointing in week 1. I'm not going to lie. Start with Kristiansund, who lost against Alsund, newly promoted Alsund, away by 1-0, and I think we've got to give Alsund a little bit of credit in that game. To be fair, they look much better this time on their return to Eliteserien. But Kristiansund, we expect more from them. You know, they've been a solid mid-table side, if not better, for the last few seasons, and they just, I think their XG for that game was like 0.22. They offered nothing at all. They really hardly laid a glove on Alesund, and that was concerning for Kristiansund. And if you look at their squad, it's like, who's really going to get them the goals, perhaps? And if Moses Mauer's not in form, they're relying on like wingers and attackers, and like last season, they might rely on the defence a bit more in this game. And I see this being a low-scoring contest now, because Sarpsborg, they as well were very poor for me against Viking in round 1. I heard all this talk pre-season about they're going to be this exciting side, they're going to be going for goals, take risks, Stefan Bilborn, the new manager, ex-Hammarby, but they offered naff all. Like, Viking deserved the win. They nearly held out for a 0-0 draw, actually, but the way they operated in that game was way more defensive than I expected, and their offence just did not click at all. Like, it was really concerning. I see this being quite a poor game, to be honest. I think two sides who've lost their first match, they're going to be a bit nervous, going to be a bit scratchy. They'll probably take a draw if you offered it them. I actually think Kristiansund might just nick the 3 points, because at home they had a really strong record last year. They tend to play pretty well in front of their own fans at this tight venue where the crowd gets on top of you. But I don't fancy betting on the game. I don't think there's much value. If I had to actually take anything, it would be under 2.75. I don't think there's going to be many goals in this game based on what I saw last week. Kristiansund are the favourites, minus 0.25 favourites. You might get a little bit of juice out of that, but overall, I am happy just to leave this game alone. I'm predicting 1-0, but it's not going to be a classic match by any means. And yeah, overall, I just think it's just leave this one alone, and low-scoring contest in my opinion. Tromsø against HamKam this Sunday, 5 PM kickoff time in the UK. Norwegian Eliteserien match, and both sides, let's have a look at their form. Tromsø lost against Odd last week 2-0. HamKam got a 2-2 draw against Lillestrøm, and for me this is the hardest match of the round to predict. Like, I really, no result really would surprise me here at all. Now, Tromsø were very unlucky losing at Odd 2-0. I thought they were the better team, to be honest with you. They created by far the better chances. I think they had nearly 20 shots in the game, and I don't know how they didn't at least score. They came up against a good goalkeeper, a defence which dug in hard and just grafted really strongly, but they missed some good chances as well, and that's the concern with Tromsø. It's like, do they really have an out-and-out striker who you can rely on? You know, if the likes of Moses Abi are not firing or Mikkelsen's not firing, then where's the goals going to come from? Now, they also had a bad home record last year, but it did get better towards the end of the year, and logically they should be a strong home side. Who really likes travelling that far north into the Arctic Circle to face Tromsø? But for some reason it wasn't that strong for them in 2021. HamKam, got to be honest, I thought they played really well against Lillestrøm. Certainly first half, got that 2-0 lead, and then really what came unstuck was Lillestrøm just used their bench depth and started to perform, and Lillestrøm are a better side than Tromsø, so this in a way is not such a hard test. But you know, can you get a result away from home against Tromsø? It's a tricky place to go. Will Tromsø use that extra year of Eliteserien experience? Possibly. I liked what I saw from Tromsø last week. I think they played well, and that is why I've leaned slightly towards them in this game. I think they'll probably win by the odd goal, 1-0 or 2-1. If I had to take anything, I'd probably just take over 2.25, but that's just a gut feeling. If this ended a low-scoring game as well, I wouldn't be surprised. Both teams to score, maybe that's another tempter. Overall, it's such a tough game. I'm predicting 2-1 Tromsø, but if HamKam won, I wouldn't be shocked. So for me, it's a clear no-bet game. Such a tricky match to forecast, and as I've got a good feeling Tromsø get the win, but I certainly would not hang my hat on it. It's such a tricky game, this one. Sandefjord against Bodø/Glimt this Sunday in the Eliteserien at 5 PM kickoff time in the UK, and I'm actually doing this video before I know the result of Bodø/Glimt-Roma, nearly 24 hours before actually. So, you know, if something comes out of that game like a really bad injury or something really significant, then you've got to take that on board. But right now, I've just got to go with what we know, and that was last week. Glimt had a 2-2 draw with Rosenborg, and Sandefjord actually looked quite impressive when they beat Haugesund 3-1 away. And I'm going to start with Sandefjord because that first half, Haugesund were terrible, but I thought Sandefjord played really well, and Alexander Ruud Tveta, he's not prolific by any means, but he was in the right place at the right time. He looked like a good poacher in that game with a hat-trick. Now, I've never really rated him, but he can't knock anyone who scores a hat-trick, can he? So fair play. Maybe he can kick on from that. Bodø/Glimt, I thought it took them about probably 55 minutes to get going against Rosenborg, and they started to play some good stuff. It was against a stubborn defence, and they might get the same here because Sandefjord have a knack of keeping it close against Bodø/Glimt in the last 2 seasons. Bear in mind, this Glimt side has dominated Norway in 2020 and 2021. Sandefjord have only lost against them by 1 goal on 3 occasions. They actually beat them in this fixture last season 1-0. It was a big surprise result. They have a knack of, as I say, keeping it really close, and I think it's going to be close again because Glimt, whatever happens in that Roma game, they're going to have some sort of hangover or come down, aren't they? But ultimately they're extra class quality, drive, and they know they need to win this sort of game. If they want to be winning titles again, they can't afford to be slipping up in this sort of fixture in round 2 anyway. So I think they will find a way to win the game, but I certainly wouldn't hang my hat on it. And you know, the price for this game, we're in the over/under here, but in terms of 1x2, they're 1.73, and for me that is just a little bit too short. I'm not interested in getting involved here. I think 2-1 Glimt, but I'm not really sure. If Sandefjord even pulled out a shock, it wouldn't totally surprise me because, you know, they got a few factors going in their favour here. I will side with the quality of Glimt, but I'm really happy to leave this one alone. Viking against Ålesund, and this is the late evening game this Sunday in Eliteserien, 7 PM kickoff time in the UK. So let's have a look at both these teams who got off to an excellent start. Both won 1-0 last week. Viking left it late to beat Sarpsborg on the road. They were by far the better side, and it's just they broke through later than I think everyone expected, but they certainly dominated the contest, deserved the win. I was actually impressed how Viking had control of the game, and they didn't really ever look like conceding a goal, which is not something you would say about the Vikings of last season. You know, they tended to win matches more end-to-end football style, outscoring the opposition really, but they tended to have quite a lot of control in that game. Whether that continues, let's see. Ålesund were very impressive against Kristiansand, it must be said. Another side who, I think they restricted Kristiansand to 0.22 XG, which is quite impressive. They defended well. This is a much better squad than we've seen the Ålesund that have come up recently and just got relegated. They've got a good manager in Lars Arne Nielsen as well, who will, I think, come here and try to frustrate Viking, and he'll put a strong defensive line-up, and it might be difficult to penetrate. I think Viking ultimately will have enough to get the win. They've got enough individual class and quality to knock the door down, and they can win the match in different ways. But it might not be easy. It might take them, say, until the second half to get that win. And I'm thinking like 1-0 or 2-0 to Viking here. Like when I saw the fixtures come out a few months ago, I was thinking, why is this the late evening game in round 2? But really, I mean, back then I was thinking Viking easily win. I don't think we can underestimate Ålesund. They will take plenty of momentum from last week, and Viking at 1.62 to win, I'd probably lean them if I had to. I think they will win 1-0, 2-0. But I don't really want to stake any money on this game. I'm certainly not a handicap because I think there's a good chance they could win by exactly 1 goal. The goal line itself is actually quite high at 3. I could see this being an under game. I really think Ålesund might defend quite strongly here and be hard to break down. But happy not to get involved in this game. I'm predicting 2-0 Viking. They should have enough eventually. But Ålesund, give them some respect from last week. I was quite impressed what I saw. So I will leave this one alone and just take it steady.